Welcome, friends, to Club Misery, where we review the eeriest and the queeriest of horror. Hey! Welcome to our podcast, and I'm here with Brannick.
Yep. Hi.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about the movie Bit, because it's an awesome movie, wouldn't you say?
There's a lot to it.
There is a lot to this movie, but specifically, we're going to start talking about LGBTQ plus horror movies. And or any movies that involve gay characters or anything like that. Because there are some out there, believe it or not. Not many. There are not many, but there's getting to be more every year, which is good.
And even some of yesteryears, there was little tiny hints and slivers.
Yeah. There was little things. You still want to do Werewolf on Wheels, don't you?
Maybe.
Yeah, we might do that one at some point. We might do that one. Go read a review about that one.
Terror Train, that's another good one. Nightmare on Elm Street 2. Okay, anyway.
But no, today we're talking about Bit, which is a movie about a transgender vampire.
Which is funny because when I went into it, I didn't read anything. So I did not realize she was transgender until probably halfway through the movie.
Well, I read the summary, but I'm not sure the summary of the movie really describes the movie that well, honestly.
No, it kind of doesn't.
No.
Looking back at it, because I just went into it cold. You said, let's watch a movie. I said, great. I said, which one? You're like, how about Bit? I'm like, it's on Tubi. Thank you, Tubi. Not our sponsor.
Once again, thank you, Tubi.
And once again, not our sponsor. But I saw it was on Tubi. I said, great, let's watch it. I didn't even read anything. I was just like, oh, I see on the cover, it's a pretty girl with blood on her face. Must be a vampire.
I had actually heard about this movie before I watched it because it came out ago. This is 2021, just in case you're wondering when we're doing this. Because we don't know when this might actually post, but it came out a few years ago on the film circuit, and it got a little bit of buzz. I don't think it actually won anything. I'll have to recheck on that, but I had heard of it before, and so after I saw it, I could see why. Because it's definitely got some good stuff in there, and it's definitely original in many ways that you wouldn't think just a basic vampire kind of movie would be. But it starts off with our main character, Laurel, and she just graduated from high school, and she's going to LA for the summer. And she's transgender, but it's not explicitly stated. There are hints of it in there.
Yeah, a drunk dude comes up to her at a party and he's like, "You're so brave. What you did. Oh my God." And she's like, "Ha ha, thanks."
Yeah, exactly. And I like that because it's more realistic that way, I thought. Yeah. But she wants to get out of her dinky little Oregon town. And so she goes to LA to stay with her brother. And the first night she's there, they go clubbing and she immediately falls in with this pack of vampires. And I don't know, what did you think about well, they weren't all lesbians. Duke was a lesbian, but I don't think they were all lesbians. It didn't specifically say. They might have been.
They didn't specifically say. It was very open to interpretation. There was, you could tell there's obviously LGBTQ in there. Izzy was actually the one to sort her out of the crowd and said later on in the movie that the more attractive you are to somebody, I think the better they taste.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah. Which kind of sucks for various reasons.
Sucks. I get it.
Yeah. This podcast will be full of puns from now on.
Yes, as it should be. I liked that her older brother also looked kind of like an older Jughead.
Sort of, yeah. I don't know. He looked like every skinny white dude I see. So
Wow. Wowie, wow.
Sorry, he did. But no, actually her brother Mark was actually a really good big brother.
Yes.
So Yeah, like I like that. Like he really tried to look after her. But the first night she's in LA, they
Yeah.
go clubbing and like, okay, this is the one part I didn't buy because they're at this club and Izzy comes up to her at the bar and they're just talking just like normally. I'm like, there's no way they could do that. No way.
Yeah,
They would not be able to hear each other. They would be shouting.
Yeah, there's a lot of shouting in bars.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially because the band that was playing, I think it was like Death Valley Girls or something like that. And it's like this punk rock girl band, and they're playing very loudly, of course, because that's a live show.
Yeah, that's what you do.
And yeah, so I can agree with that. There was like a little bit of talking that would not have, you would be like, what? What?
I would have liked to kind of seen that scene too, because that's the one, like one of the few complaints. I have very few complaints about this movie, but that was one of them. Was like it takes a little while to get going. There's a lot of small talk in the beginning, which sort of helps set up the characters, but at the same time it doesn't, because I'm like, I liked Izzy, but like you don't get a whole lot about like the other members of like the vampire band, even though there's not that many of them. There's only 4 of them.
Yeah, we have Laurel is our main, also Lolo, she goes by. But we have Duke, which is the head honcho.
Mm-hmm.
Frog, who has flour in her hair.
She's
Izzy,
the Latinx one. Yeah.
yes, who owns a tattoo shop. We have Izzy, who is the girl who kind of started this whole thing. And then we have Roya.
What was the last one's name? Because
Roya?
Roya. Okay.
Yeah. And they're all cute.
They all very distinct, which is nice. I will say this, I thought at the beginning Duke was trying way too hard, but then you get into like her backstory and I see why she was trying so hard to be a badass. So
honestly, I kind of liked that because I felt like it felt kind of genuine. Sometimes when you have a kick-ass girl, and I'm thinking of a movie right now that I reviewed not too long ago, but when you have a kick-ass girl, you can see sometimes there's that try-hard attitude. Like, I need to do this. And honestly, I thought that the lady who played her, Diana Hopper.
Oh,
so
okay.
Diana Hopper, I thought she did actually a pretty good job at being in control enough, but also kind of predatorial, as a vampire would be, I assume. I do like that in the club, there's a creepy old man there.
Yeah, dude, that's what I was gonna see. It was kind of when they come in the club, it's like that scene in the Fellowship of the Rings where all the hobbits get debris and everybody's like looking at them all sideways when they get to the inn, and like Aragorn's in the corner smoking a pipe, looking all shady. I'm like, that's kind of how this club was.
Well, it was all like very young, beautiful people, and this really old guy in the corner.
That's true. Well, that's not suspicious at all.
I just come here for the drinks and Death Valley Girls.
They might have had great drink specials. We don't know.
We don't know. We can imagine.
Laurel and Izzy hit it off. They're flirting and they hit it off really good. And they're like, "Hey, let's go to the roof and like make out." And so they do.
Well, they go to a different place. They go to the vampire lair.
That's true. Like the old dude here, like when she's trying to leave the club, the old dude grabs her and she's like, "Don't go with him." And she's like, "Ew, get off me, dude."
Yeah. Because, I mean, staring intensely and grabbing somebody works really well.
Yeah.
You're trying to warn them. I've done it a couple times. It didn't work out great for me, but it worked out less great for this dude. Yes. So Izzy and Laurel are hitting it off. And like you said, they go up to the roof to flirt.
I will say this, though. They leave for the after party, which is like this converted warehouse kind of where the vampires live. And I will say this, like, okay, so they're like Duke and the other like vampire chicks are downstairs playing pool with these 2 guys who are just so way too trusting. I'm just like, dude, do guys just like trust hot chicks and instinctively, even though they're like they're dropping all these hints about like how like bad they are? Because Duke's like,
show me your dick.
Yeah, exactly.
And the guy's like, okay. She could have been glamoring him. Well,
I
talk
guess she
about-
could have. That's true. I guess she could have. Although
vampires have these cool club powers called glamoring, which I've only seen them use in the club, I think, in this movie.
okay, we got to get to that part later. There's somebody else who uses glamour in the movie, but we'll get to that one later.
Yeah.
But no, these guys are way too trusting. So they go upstairs with Duke, and Duke, well, she ties one guy to the bed, and again, he's way too trusting of this.
Well, what is she gonna do? She's just a little girl.
I guess. Even though she's like throwing him around on the walls and like, and she gets his pants off and she's all like, oh, you're not ready. Okay, fine. I'll go make out with your friend until you're ready. And then she bites his friend, and then she goes back to him and she gives a kind of long spiel about like, oh, hey, remember that that girl you raped? Yeah, you're gonna die now. So,
but before she says this, I wrote this down because his friend Jimmy, that's the one that she made out with and then bit, because we see him like, oh, like the life flow from his eyes as he sinks into the ground. And this other guy's like, oh, Jimmy, are you okay? And this is, I quote from the movie, Jimmy is dead as fuck, yo.
See, this was to be the part where I'm like, yeah, this is Duke trying a little too hard.
She's very with the slang, fam. It's lit. She dabs.
To be fair, this came out at least 2 years ago. So.
A year and a half, I think. But yes.
But anyway, back to Laurel and Izzy on the roof. So they make out, they have a great time. I think they have sex. And then
a real fade away scene.
Yeah, very fade away. So yeah. It's kind of sweet though, because Laurel's like, hey, can I see you again? This has been like the best night of my life. And I feel so bad for Laurel because he's like, yeah, no, that's probably not gonna happen.
She actually says this is a one night thing.
Yeah, this is a one night thing. And then she bites her.
Izzy bites Laurel.
Yeah, Izzy bites Laurel. But then Duke shows up. And Duke's like, wait, don't kill her yet. And then Duke's like, you're not ready yet. And then she throws her off the building.
Yeah, she's like, let's see if you survive.
And then she lands in the cleanest dumpster you've ever seen.
Yeah, for LA especially. Guys, this is an LA dumpster. And she lands in a very perfectly pretty pose, does not break an arm. And wakes up the next morning.
Yeah. And then she goes home to Mark and she sleeps for I don't know, 2 days.
Which again, he keeps asking her, should I take you to the hospital? Yes. The answer is yes.
Yeah, because she comes home covered in blood and she's
covered in blood.
I'm just gonna sleep it off.
Not talking. Because he's like, what's wrong? And she's like, nothing. I fell. And it's like, no. You take her to the hospital. Yeah, she sleeps for 3 days.
And then the vampires show up at her brother's door, at her brother's apartment in the middle of the night when he's in his boxers. And he answers his door like that, I guess.
Well, what else are you gonna do? Like he said, it's 3 a.m. in his own fucking apartment. He can show up however he wants. And Frog is into it too.
He was, yeah.
But basically, they're like,
again, this is because the vampire's all like, "Hey, Laurel, come with us," and he's like, no, maybe she shouldn't."
Yeah, he's actually trying to be a good brother.
Yeah.
I don't know about these weird predatorial hot chicks.
They just showed up randomly in my apartment.
And say that you need to leave with them. I would think something, I don't know, gang related. I don't know. If I was him, I'd be like, this is pretty sketchy. Just got there.
But no, Laurel decides to go with him anyway, because, she's having weird feelings since she got bit. Basically, they explain to her, this is the part where they go to a parking lot somewhere. And they explain to her, okay, look at this. You can be a vampire if you want. If you want to join our vampire group, you can. And there's actually a really sweet moment, where okay, we have 3 rules. We got to talk about the rules, I guess.
Okay, but before then,
okay,
I will again verbatim from this movie quotations. This is Laurel. So are you guys vampires? Duke. Yep.
Well, on the one hand, do you really need to explain it? I mean,
Honestly, I liked the clearness and conciseness. It wasn't like Vampire Boys with a Z, where it's like I
there
am
were
one
not
of
a million
eternal.
coffee dates in this one. No.
No, there weren't. It's not like I am one of eternal. You can never know my secrets. And it's like he's a fucking vampire.
Yeah, basically.
At least they cut to the fucking chase.
Duke offers to let Laurel join them, and Laura's still not sure, but they have a few rules. They have rules. And to be fair, Duke is very straightforward. Laurel asks her questions like, okay, do you guys kill bad people or good people? Like, who do you kill? And Duke's like, it's about 80-20. We kill bad people. I'm down with that.
Yeah, they tried to like find certain people like that are just complete assholes.
Right, the trolls.
Yeah, the trolls.
Yeah, basically they're like the kind of people that, well, I don't want to say QAnon people, but basically that's the description she gives.
It is the description she gives.
Yeah, basically.
So like the 3 rules.
We go after. Yeah, the 3 rules. So the first rule is don't glamour other vampires.
Right. Okay. Which is like mind control.
And there's a reason for that you find out later.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that later.
There's a reason for all of these rules.
Yeah. I mean, the second then rule was you can't kill what you eat, or you have to kill what you eat. So you won't have like vampires running around everywhere.
Yeah, because in this one, if you bite one and they don't die, then they become a vampire.
Right. Laurel doesn't know that yet. Because Duke says to her, like, okay, there's a cure, but you've got to take it like
within 24 hours.
Or something like that.
Yeah, but like in some, it's like you have to, like in Buffy, like they bite you and then you have to bite them kind of a thing. That's not like that here.
No, it's just you're bit and you're a vampire. But Laurel doesn't know that yet. Yeah. But the third rule is you can never turn a man. Because men will abuse their vampire powers.
Men are evil. All of them.
And Duke decides all the new recruits to their like vampire group. But they all have to agree.
Yes, they could veto any of that.
Yeah, but they all agree to Laurel, which is really cute. Because there is a cute scene where Laurel's like, well, what about me? And like, I mean... She doesn't outright say, hey, I'm transgender, so does that
just... that was the moment that I was like, oh, this girl.
I know. And then Duke's like, never even crossed my mind, so you're in. And I'm like, oh, okay. Although I have to say, if Duke had just like told her from the start, hey, if you were a vampire, you can fly, I'm pretty sure Laurel would have agreed right away.
Honestly, I think if you told anybody that,
yeah, I know. Because Laurel still has a problem with the killing part, which obviously you would. I would hope.
80-20 is pretty good. If I do my homework, I could probably bump that to 90. But yeah, so they have somebody there.
They have a guy in a trunk. For Laurel to bite. Yeah,
she can either take the cure and become a real girl again, or she can bite him and become a vampire girl with sexy club vampire powers. And so she goes to try to bite him, but womp womp, she can't.
No, she not there yet.
Not there yet.
So Laurel runs away. And then this is where things get interesting. So they take this guy into a warehouse, the one that Laurel didn't kill, and it's an ambush by
old men.
Well, most of them are old men, yeah. And they're the kind of like, like gun-toting kind of QAnon men. But apparently they're QAnon for like, there's a group of lesbian vampires that were like roaming LA. And I'm like, they were right about that. So they were sort of like amateur vampire killers.
Yeah, they're amateur vampire hunters. And even Duke says that, like, a broken clock is right twice.
Yeah.
And I laughed at that. I thought that was pretty funny.
So they ambush them and things aren't going well. Like they catch Duke in a gigantic bear trap, it looks like.
That looked cool. That did look cool.
It did cool. Because it like trapped her around her middle. I'm like, this is how big this thing was.
Yeah, he stepped on it too a couple times.
Yeah, and they had a flamethrower and stuff,
but they're not really
wasn't-
vampire hunters because some of them are, but the one dude, the main dude, he is looking for this mysterious master fellow because he was a
yeah,
familiar.
yeah, because the one old dude this is the same old dude from the club earlier, and he actually turns around and shoots the other guys in the room, and he says, "Yo, I'm looking for the master. Where is he? You've got him somewhere."
Mm-hmm. And they're
You
like,
got-
fuck you.
Yeah, and Duke's like, yeah. And how did they get away from that dude? I can't remember. Did he? Laurel.
Yes.
Laurel comes back and kills him. Yeah,
Yep.
because
And-
like one of them gets away. One of them like runs away, and she sees him running away, and then she turns around, and comes back, and then she saves Duke and the others. So
And she becomes a real vampire girl.
yeah, which kind of comes as a problem to her personal life, but we'll get into that later. But no, this is the best part, though. This is the best part because then you get Duke's flashback, and it's my favorite part of
That
the movie.
is my favorite part of the movie too. I wrote
Yes.
that down.
Yes.
Yep.
Duke's flashback is so cool. So it's the 70s in New York, and she's there, and she goes or tells her story about, like she was rough and tumble and turning tricks at the beginning, and then she eventually finds her place as a lesbian in New York. And then this guy shows up at a club one night. And I love this entrance. His entrance is amazing because she's like, he was the most beautiful man I've ever seen, but he's not. He's so
Hey, that's mean to the actor.
I know. I'm just saying. Like you would think, like the way she describes him, though, he's like, Brad Pitt looking. Like, no, he looks more like a Ozzy Osbourne or.
Ooh. I was gonna go with Jack White from the White Stripes.
Anyway, I he's the kind of vampire that would normally be in like What You Do in the Shadows. He's not exactly what you'd call sexy, but the thing is, here's the thing though. He looks sexy to her because he's glamoring her, and he has vampire wives. They're all glamored. And then you like kind of see through Duke's eyes 3 decades of her being enslaved to this guy who's just called the master.
And partying.
Yeah, and partying.
So much partying. Disco dancing. It was so good. It was beautiful. And then in the 80s, they're all doing coke. That's what vampires did back in the 80s.
Basically, yeah. Oh, but Laurel, like, she gets into the vampire lifestyle more, and she forgets to visit her brother, and
to call back her fucking friend.
I know that was really, I mean, I know Laurel's going through some stuff, but like she left her gay friend in Oregon, and he keeps like texting her and trying to call, and she won't answer because she's like dealing with the vampire stuff.
Which is honestly is montages of them drinking.
Yeah, basically.
And eating people.
Yeah.
But not her. Not her yet. Not yet.
Yeah, she's still a little hesitant to just, go out and full out murder people. So she eventually like gets a text like from her brother, like, it's an emergency. Where are you? Come see me. So she goes back to her brother's place, and he's like, hey, your friend, who I feel very sorry, I can't remember his name now. Your friend like tried to commit suicide, and like, why don't you call? What the hell's up with you? And they get in a big fight about like,
it's a good fight though.
It is a good fight. It is.
It's good.
Yeah, it's believable. I'd say this.
Well written, well acted.
Yeah, it is.
She's like, you're not supporting me. And he's like, all I fucking do is support you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really good. It's really believable. But in the heat of the moment, because she has not been feeding, in the heat of the moment, she bites her brother big time.
And that's a problem. That's a
big problem. Because guess what? He's a dude.
Yep. Yeah, but here's the thing that I didn't get. Why the hell did she take him back to the other vampires? That is the last place I would take.
And I understand that. I think from when she was panicking already, she was already panicked because of what happened to her friend. Because she she did this to her brother. She wasn't thinking, she felt like, I can't take him to the hospital because then they're going to be asking too many questions.
Yeah.
I'll take them back to my friends.
Well, here's the thing. I guess at the time, she still thought there was an antidote.
Oh, yes, that's true,
Yeah.
too. We should say that.
Yeah.
They thought there was a cure.
Yeah, she thought
So
there was a cure.
She's like, you got to help me. You got to give him the cure.
Yeah, when she gets her back to the vampire hangout, they're like, well, you got to kill him now.
What was the antidote, really?
I think it was Everclear.
It was a bottle of Everclear with the lid scratched off.
Which is what it looked like.
Yeah, I know, it did.
It's like, I don't know what she thought it was.
Honestly, I thought it was like holy water. But I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. But basically, yeah, there was no cure.
Mm-hmm.
They were just going to kill her if she said no. So she decides to make a risk. Because there's one person we've not talked about yet.
Oh, that's true. The master's first wife, who is at the very, very beginning of the movie. Because at the very, very beginning of the movie, she's like a cool goth vampire lady, and she's changing like her boyfriend into a vampire. And then Duke and her crew show up. You broke the rule. What the hell? So Duke rips out her boyfriend's heart, lights it on fire, and then they throw her into a hole for, I think it was 5 years. She got a 5 year.
No, just one. Just one.
No, it wasn't just one.
I think it was just one.
Yeah, well, she broke the rules, so they threw her in a hole, and she'd been in there for a while.
Yeah, basically solitary confinement.
But Laurel cuts her throat. I think she cut her throat, and lets her blood into the hole. Then,
which I wonder, was the first wife just down there with her mouth open?
I guess. What else are you gonna do? I don't know.
Hoping for blood to drop down. I'm
assuming she was paying attention to what was going on up there.
She's like, I'm just gonna open my mouth, and hopefully shit or piss doesn't drop down into this grate. Hopefully.
But so she comes out of the hole, and then also the master shows up, because as much as she actually helped take down the master in Duke's flashback, but she still loved him, because I don't know if she was still glamored or whatever, but she had been the oldest one that had been his wife, and she still loved him. And so the master actually comes back. This is a problem also. Things are getting really complicated now.
You all thought it was just about flying vampires and girls kissing. You're wrong.
No, this is so much more. There's so much going on in this movie, especially near the end.
Yeah, so he comes back, and he's all like, you didn't tell them everything, did you, Duke? And she's like, what? And he's like, dude, you've been eating my heart this whole time, and because of that, you have my power, and because of that, you've been glamoring all these bitches.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's like, oh, no, Duke, no. And she's like, no. And he's like, you gotta fucking admit it. And she's like, maybe a little bit. Then they fight. My notes get scant at this point.
Things were moving really fast. So were mine.
Yeah. By the way, Andy was her friend. I just saw that.
Oh, okay. Andy was her gay friend from Oregon, which we assume he's okay now, although it never really specified.
Never see him again. Never see him again. Maybe they should have the sequel of him going to New York and getting in his own vampire club. Anyway, so All Girls Club sucks. And basically, the master calls her out on all her bullshit. Like, dude, you've been playing everybody.
And I hate that he actually has some good points. I'm like, yes. He's got some good, but that's the good thing about this movie. Everybody's a bit morally gray.
Well, and then it makes also Duke kind of an unreliable narrator.
Oh yeah.
That's like, well, how much of this is true and how much of it is not true? So I thought that was kind of clever too. I forget which goes where, but I think her heart was taken out. Duke's heart is sucked out of the body. He's gonna kill it, but all the girls plus Laurel gang up on him.
Yes, yes. There's a fire. I remember he caught on fire.
Yeah, he caught on
Yeah,
fire.
because they threw the Everclear at him or something.
That's right. She
Yeah.
had it in her mouth because he was all like, booba dooba booba doo. And then she had the lighter, and he's like, what are you gonna do with that? And then she's like, Pleh. And she spit it out on him, and he caught on fire. So he's not dead, though, you know. But
No, because like you can't die unless you burn a vampire's heart. I think that's the only way to kill him.
yeah,
Yeah. And his heart won't burn because he's like old and powerful.
yeah,
So.
super, super duper. Because he's gone by many names. Rod, Steve, Mortimer. So Laurel is like, hey, Duke, you've been fucking around with us. That's not cool. Get the fuck out of here. Throws her heart down into the hole.
The hole where the first wife vampire was, yeah.
Yep. And Duke just like scrambles down there
to get the heart back, right?
Yep. And they keep her there. And they decide, she's like, we're gonna make some new rules, huh?
Mm-hmm.
You know? And they're like, cool with that. And so her brother becomes a vampire, and he's very unsure about this.
Yeah, he's really chill about it, honestly. He's like, I didn't really have a choice in the matter. She's like, well, I didn't either. So, still, he's very, very forgiving. Like I said, he's a really good big brother.
He's a good brother, but he is also very like, I don't know about this, man. Like, what if I do become like a dick? And she's like, oh, we'll figure it out. And he's like, well, what are we gonna do now? Like, what? And she's like, I think we should share this with the other people.
I know. See, that was the thing that got me. I'm like, what, are you going to make everybody a vampire?
Yep.
I'm like, how does that help anything?
Because it's not about one group of people having the power. It's about everybody having the power.
I know, but if everybody has the power balance is already unequal, and then you give everybody the vampire power, then it's still going to be unequal. They're just going to be vampires.
Shh.
I'm just saying.
She's a romantic. So the new girl club now has boys in it because boys can join.
As long as you're Laurel's brother.
Well, I'm sure in maybe Andy will want to. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, he might.
But they decide to share the powers together, and in the end, they all eat a piece of his heart.
Yeah, of the master's heart. The end. It's a beautiful ending. Oh, but no, it was actually I liked it. I liked it a lot.
I liked it, but I have points. So I did enjoy that if people get into feminism, there's a lot of different shades and flavors and whatnot. Mm-hmm. You get into feminism. And this was definitely the all boys suck feminism. And I enjoyed that at the end, that wasn't the one that brought them together. It brought them closer to include everybody, because that's what feminism's all about.
Mm-hmm. You thought this movie was going to like try to make a point, and then it kind of turned itself on its head and be like, well, maybe the extreme angle of it isn't all good kind of thing.
Yeah, like the kind that Duke had was like the Dworkin kind of feminism, where it's like all men are all power, and so therefore they're all bad. It got to the end of it, and it was more like a bell hooksy kind of like, no, we need to be all in this together. And I enjoyed that. I don't know if people are going to understand that message or take that message.
I don't know. Duke did make a nice point, though, when she said, like, imagine, like, if the guys were scared to walk down the streets at night because of us. It's like, that's not necessarily a good thing, but it's an interesting mental image.
And since we're talking about Duke, we'll go into the other point that I had to make, is that, again, as her as an unreliable narrator, I wonder in the sequence how much she was glamored and how much she actually felt an attraction to the master. And there is a thing that happens sometimes in the LGBTQ community, to where sometimes people will be like, let's say, diehard one way or the other, diehard lesbians or, diehard gays or something like that. And if they feel attraction to somebody of the opposite sex, sometimes in the community, there's kind of like this pushback, like, no, you're going against your lesbian natural things. Like, how dare you? And I wonder too, as her character, if maybe part of that was going on in there, like, no, I cannot like this guy because he has a ween.
Like, given her past, I'm like, well, she was a prostitute, so she had to sleep with guys whether or not she wanted to.
Right.
So, I can see where she, like, I don't want to be attracted to any guys anymore at all.
Well, but I mean, that's not what lesbianism is, you know?
No. It's not, no.
And so
I'm just saying, she said she was living her best life when she was a lesbian.
Yes, and she said, I was a straight up dyke, and then this dude walks in, and I have squishy feelings for him, and fuck him for that, like, I hate that guy. But more, I hate myself because I have these squishy feelings. And so that kind of brought in that shade too of like, well, did she actually just feel attracted to him and he took advantage of that? I'm not saying Master was a great guy. He wasn't. But, again, it's like sexuality is fluid. It is not usually, like, you look at the Kinsey scale, it wavers, it moves, we're human beings, or vampires in this case, and I like that image, if that's what they were going for, is that maybe something had changed in her and she was uncomfortable with that. So again, I do like what you said to the point of like, all of these characters are grays, she became what she hated, she became the person, the next new master, whether that's from eating his heart or if that's just from her nature. And it's funny because there was like, and some of the other points that I have, like, I never felt, and you kind of mentioned this, the other girls kind of needed more personalities. We needed more scenes with them.
Yeah, because I think they had personality. We just didn't hear any of their backstory, so we didn't know hardly anything about them. We basically knew their names a little bit. And like, at one point, Duke was telling like Laurel like how she can have a regular family life. Like, Frog works at her father's tattoo shop, and Izzy directs music videos, and I can't remember the other girl. What does she do? I can't.
Roya had a cat.
Yeah, Roya had a cat. That's right.
I liked that.
And that's basically all we knew about them, though.
That's all we knew. And I understand they were glamored, so they were probably more subdued. But what I didn't understand was even the relationship to Izzy. Because, again, like, Laurel had this thing like, you were going to kill me. You were going to kill me. And Izzy's like, yeah, fucking get over it, But there was no interaction with that. Every interaction that we kind of saw with the girls is them building this friendship, which is what I wanted. I wanted this friendship built. But most of that was done through like montage.
Well, yeah, that's true. And I felt like at the end of the movie, like Laurel had almost more of a friendship with Duke than she did with Izzy, which, I'm like, Izzy and her, like, they had sex, they made out, they had like a really nice, like, moment on the roof there before, Izzy bit her.
Well, and then even afterwards, like, there was that part where she went into Izzy's room and Izzy shut the door. Again, it was kind of weird, and maybe they were kind of worried about sexualizing women or lesbianism or bisexuality. But it was very, and then the door closes, and then it fades to black.
Yeah, I'm okay with that, just because I'm like, I don't think necessarily you need a sex scene in a movie, but.
Well, when it's about a relationship and connecting with this new tribe, maybe, sexuality and sex itself is a very, like, vulnerable state, and especially coming from like a trans woman, What I really liked about Assassination Nation, which I love that movie, is that we get those moments with Bex. We got her as a sexual being and also as this whole character, and we got to see that vulnerability and we got to connect with that vulnerability. And in this, it's funny because for it being all about females, there just wasn't a lot of that female cooperativeness or emotions or emotional connection. I found it kind of lacking in that sense.
I can see that. There was a lot of vampire stuff going on.
There was a lot of vampire stuff going on. True. But when you're
and that kind of took off the bulk of the plot.
Yes, that's true. But going back to another film, another LGBTQ film, Thirst, the Icelandic one, not the Korean one.
Okay.
But he is a gay vampire who eats a lot of dick. And I have a review at Nightmarish Conjurings if you guys want to go check that out. But what I liked about it too is that they did talk about like just kind of like everything. Like there was a lot of connection in that movie, and I liked that. And that was kind of, I don't know, lacking here. I think you can have your cake and eat it too.
Okay. All right. I'll concede that point. I do think there was a lot of good stuff between, like, say, Laurel and her brother. And so you got, like, a more family kind of connection in this movie than you did, like, you know, girl time. But it was something. It was something.
And I also have to ask, is flirting always awkward? It's been a while since... I mean, I flirt with spouse, but I feel like it's kind of like... We've been together for so long, it's kind of a weird thing that we do. Although we always kind of did flirt weird. But I don't know, it just always seems so awkward on screen.
The flirting in the bar was very awkward, but I thought, like, on the roof, they were having a real connection there. Before they, like, made out, I thought they were having some connection. Where they were talking about, you know, Laurel's, like, why she came to LA, and Izzy's talking about, like, her movies or her music videos.
I don't know. I think some of that too felt kind of stilted. Maybe it was like, oh, I'm nervous about doing this. This is my first day in LA.
You're harsh, man. They knew each other for, like, you know, an hour.
Yeah, for real. and
how many people do you have, like, an instant connection with? Not too many. It's going to be a little awkward at first.
I guess that's true. I don't know. I'm not of that scene, so I don't know. I guess if I were to flirt, I would go up to somebody and be like, hey, do you want to go get some snacks with me?
Yeah, that's not awkward at all.
All right, put in the comments if you think that's a good pickup line. I think it's solid. 10 out of 10. Everybody likes snacks. Who doesn't like snacks?
Well, it would depend on the type of snacks you're talking about, you know.
Well, and see, that's your conversation starter.
Okay. Which is better than Laurel's, which is like tying a shoelace around her neck.
I did see that. I wanted to point out that, yeah, she wears a belly shirt, flannel, and a choker around her neck to go out. And I thought that was cute. Honestly, everybody has fucking fantastic hair in this. I wrote that down a couple times because I'm like, oh my God, this hair.
Even the master, did the master have fantastic hair?
Little less.
Okay, little less.
Little less. And I want to also point out that, yes, I'm making some criticism to this movie, but that's because I actually enjoyed it. I did enjoy it.
Yeah, it is very enjoyable. It's very watchable. You won't be bored. I mean, and it's got characters. It really does.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a good vampire movie.
It is a good vampire movie. Like the effects, they aren't crazy, like, you know, Hollywood, like blockbuster level good, but they're decent.
They're practical effects, and that's what I like.
Yeah. Except for, like, I think the part where, like, some of the fire was...
Oh, yeah, the fire was CG. Yes, you can't do that. But I was talking about blood.
Yeah, the blood. Like, there's one part where, like, at the beginning when Duke, like, just punches through, like, that guy's chest and, like, grabs his heart. That was a pretty good practical effect. I was like, ooh, this movie's going to be one of those.
When Laurel rips her throat open, that was a good practical effect. Yeah, there's enough action to keep it interesting. I did like that, you know, it was LGBTQ that you don't often see. And I do like that there was a trans woman playing a trans woman.
Ah, yes, thank you. Yes, thank you for once, Hollywood. God. Yes. And thank you for not being Jared Leto. Thank you.
We should just have all trans women played by Jared Leto.
No. Please, God, no.
So funny in this movie. He's like, I just left high school. He's like 40 years old. Nicole Maines did a terrific job with this character.
Yes.
I really enjoyed her. I really enjoyed the guy who played her brother. I thought they had a really good chemistry together.
Yeah, they really did seem like siblings. They did.
And I would love if the second movie was just about them.
I'd be down with that too, because I want to know how Mark does as a vampire. He's got to kill somebody eventually.
Right. And she's kind of now, because he's the older brother, and now she's kind of the one to take care of him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that would be great.
Yeah, and I want to know what happens to her friend in Oregon.
Yeah, good old Andy. Good old Andy.
I feel bad.
I want to know why Frog is called Frog.
I want to know that too. Unanswered questions. Please make a bit 2.
Yeah, I would love to see a bit 2.
I would too, honestly. I want to know if Laurel completes her goal of changing everyone in the world into a vampire.
I don't need to see that, but a good sibling film with some twists and turns, because they're not the only vampires, that. There's other vampires.
Oh yeah, there's gotta be, yeah.
So yeah, I want to see some of her ideals being challenged by maybe other vampire people.
Ooh. And see if eating the master's heart has any bad side effects.
Besides heartburn.
Yeah.
We told you there'd be puns. And a good LGBTQ band that could star in the next one would be King Princess, which is my LGBTQ music band person that I am supporting. And you should
drop.
Yeah, I thought it'd be fun.
I guess my LGBTQ shout out would be to Poppy Z. Bright, who writes some excellent vampire fiction. Odds are you've probably read it already because she's very well known, but if you haven't, Drawing Blood and Lost Souls, both very, very good books. I'd recommend you check them out.
And honestly, classics too at this point.
Oh yeah, they are definitely classics. They're right up there with Anne Rice.
And you did a review on one.
I did.
HauntedMTL website.
Yeah. Yes, you can go read my review of it, Exquisite Corp. But I think we have about finished our discussion of Bit. So how many Cthulhus would you give this one?
Oh, that's, honestly, I'm going to give it 4.
Only 4?
Only 4? Give it 4. There's some things that could have been tweaked, but I think 4 is solid. I mean, honestly, the only thing that I think I've given a 5 so far is Surf Nazis Must Die.
You would give a 5 that. You would.
So 4 actually for me is actually very good.
I'm going to give it a 4.5. 4.5.
Okay.
Because it wasn't a perfect movie, but it was darn close. It
was very good, and I suggest people go check it out and support these. Brad Michael Emory? I don't know. Brad Michael Emmer. Anyway, he's the director of this film. He likes a lot of kind of humanistic, weird kind of horror. 2 things I do want to talk about. For one, this was as TVMA, which I don't know if that, maybe for the blood and guts, but it really wasn't that gory.
Not particularly. I thought it was going to be at the very beginning when she ripped that dude's heart out. But honestly, after that, it was pretty low key.
It was pretty tame.
Yeah, up until the end where the big fight happened.
Yeah, and I also want to say on IMDb, it's given a 4.1 out of 10, which is kind of crazy to me.
Oh, that's
It's very low. Very low. So I think that's kind of crazy. I think you guys should check it out because I think it's a lot better than that.
Oh yeah, it's way better than that.
Bliss was the other one that he did.
Oh, I've heard of that. Haven't seen it, heard of it, yeah.
Yes. And that one is very much in the same vein. Go ahead and check that out too.
I think we're about done.
Hey! All right. Well, could you oomph us out?
Oomph us out. gotta, goodbye.
Party, 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 party.